My name is Alex, I'm 43, and I've been married to my wife, Melissa, who's 40, for 10 years. When I met Melissa, she was a single mom with a young daughter, Chloe, who's now 19. Melissa was magnetic, the kind of woman who could light up a room with her laugh and take charge of any situation. I admired her independence and fell hard for her, even though stepping into the role of a father wasn't something I'd planned for my life. We made it work, or at least I thought we did. I helped raise Chloe, provided for them both, and supported Melissa through every career move and challenge. She's a project manager at a consulting firm, and her job demands a lot of her time. I was proud of her ambition, though over the past year, her dedication to work started feeling more like an escape than a necessity. It started with late nights at the office, client dinners, and an increase in business trips. Melissa would come home exhausted but distant, as if I were more of a roommate than her husband. I tried to brush it off, blaming stress, but something didn't sit right. Chloe, who used to be warm and chatty with me, started pulling away, too. She'd avoid family dinners, spend all her time in her room, and snap at me over the smallest things. At first, I chalked it up to typical teenage rebellion, but now, looking back, I wonder if she felt guilty about what was happening. The first real crack came a few weeks ago. Melissa left her phone on the counter while she ran upstairs, and I saw a message pop up from her boss, Eric. It was a simple, looking forward to tonight winking face. My stomach dropped, but I didn't confront her right away. I needed more proof, something undeniable. That's when I started paying closer attention. Melissa's business dinners lined up suspiciously with late-night texts and changes in her behavior. Chloe, meanwhile, always seemed to know when Melissa had these events, conveniently disappearing to stay at a friend's house every time. It was too much of a coincidence. I didn't know it yet, but my world was about to come crashing down in ways I couldn't have imagined. The unease I'd been feeling turned into full-blown paranoia. I started piecing things together. Melissa's guarded phone, Chloe's sudden habit of staying out on nights when Melissa was working late, and the overly familiar texts from Eric. Something was going on, and I was going to find out what. One Friday evening, Melissa announced she had another client dinner, and that it would run late. Chloe conveniently mentioned she'd be staying over at her friend Jenna's place. I played along, nodding and pretending to be oblivious, but as soon as they were out the door, I put my plan into action. Earlier that week, I'd installed a tracking app on Melissa's phone while she was in the shower. I know it's invasive, I'm not proud of it, but I needed answers. When I checked the app, it showed her heading to a hotel across town, not the upscale restaurant she'd mentioned. My heart pounded as I grabbed my keys and decided to follow her. I parked a block away from the hotel and waited. It didn't take long before I saw her stepping out of her car, wearing a dress that wasn't exactly business casual. She walked into the lobby, where Eric was waiting for her, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Watching them laugh and flirt as they walked toward the elevators, I could barely breathe. I wanted to storm in there, to drag her out and demand answers, but I knew I needed more than just my word against hers. Instead, I took pictures of them at the hotel, of them holding hands as they waited for the elevator, and of them disappearing together into a room. The final nail in the coffin was when I saw Chloe's name pop up on the tracking app. She was at the same hotel, her location pinging in the lobby. My mind raced. Why the hell was Chloe here? I waited in the parking lot, heart pounding, until she came outside, scrolling on her phone. I approached her, and when she looked up and saw me, her face went white. "Chloe," I said, my voice tight with controlled anger. "What are you doing here?" She stammered, her words tumbling out like she was trying to come up with a lie. I was just meeting a friend." "What are you doing here?" "Don't," I snapped, holding up my phone and showing her the photos I'd just taken. "Don't insult my intelligence. I know what's going on. I saw your mother with Eric and now you're here. Are you helping her? Are you covering for her?" Chloe's eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might deny it. But then she broke. "Dad, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want to. But she made me promise not to tell you." Her words felt like a dagger in my chest. My stepdaughter, the girl I'd helped raise, had been complicit in this betrayal. Chloe stood there, trembling, her face streaked with tears as the weight of what she just confessed hung heavy in the air. My heart was pounding, torn between fury and disbelief. "She made you promise?" I said, my voice low but trembling with anger. "You're telling me you knew this whole time? And you kept it from me?" "I didn't want to," Chloe cried, her voice cracking. She said it was just a phase, that she'd stop, and if I told you, it would destroy everything. She made it sound like you'd be the one to leave if you found out. Her words only fueled my rage. Melissa had not only betrayed me, she dragged her own daughter into the mess, forcing her to carry the burden of her lies. "Do you even understand what you've been part of, Chloe? You helped her sneak around with that guy while she lied to me. While we were supposed to be a family." Chloe collapsed onto a nearby bench, sobbing uncontrollably. "I didn't know what to do, Dad. I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to scream, to yell, but the sight of her breaking down in front of me stopped me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "You should have told me," I said, my voice calmer but still firm. "You should have trusted me enough to know that this isn't your fault. This is hers." Chloe nodded through her tears, unable to meet my eyes. And then, as if the universe couldn't resist adding more fuel to the fire, I saw Melissa and Eric walk out of the hotel together. They looked entirely too comfortable, her laughing at something he said, him brushing a hand across her back. I grabbed Chloe's arm and nodded toward them. "You're coming with me. She's not getting out of this." We marched across the parking lot, my footsteps heavy with purpose. Melissa spotted us when we were about 20 feet away, and her smile vanished. Her face shifted from surprise to panic in an instant. "Alex?" she stammered, stepping away from Eric like she could somehow erase the scene I just witnessed. What are you doing here?" I laughed bitterly, holding up my phone to show her the photos I'd taken. "I could ask you the same thing, Melissa. Funny, I don't remember cheating on your husband being part of your job description." Eric looked like he wanted to melt into the pavement. I think I'll—" "Don't move," I snapped, glaring at him. "You don't get to slink away from this. You're just as guilty as she is." Melissa's face flushed with anger, and she stepped in front of Eric as if to shield him. "Alex, calm down. You're making a scene." "A scene?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the parking lot. "You're worried about a scene when you've been sneaking around with him? Lying to me? Using Chloe to cover for you?" Melissa's eyes darted to Chloe, who stood frozen in place, her face pale. "Chloe, you didn't—" "She told me everything. I cut her off. So don't even try to lie your way out of this." Melissa's expression shifted, her usual confidence crumbling. "Alex, listen. It's not what you think. Stop," I roared, my voice cracking with the weight of my emotions. "Stop lying. Stop pretending. Just admit what you've done." For the first time in our entire marriage, Melissa was speechless. Melissa opened and closed her mouth like a fish gasping for air. She looked at me, then at Chloe, and finally at Eric, as if searching for someone to rescue her. But no one spoke. "Admit it, Melissa," I said, my voice low but cutting. "You've been cheating on me. You've been lying to my face for months, using Chloe to cover your tracks. And now here you are, caught in the act. So, stop with the excuses and just say it." Her jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought she might finally come clean. But instead, she folded her arms and spat. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I've been seeing Eric. But it's not like you're some saint, Alex. You've been distant for months. You're so obsessed with work that you barely even notice me anymore." I felt like she'd slapped me. "You're blaming me?" I said, incredulous. "You're standing here with your lover, caught red-handed, and you think this is my fault? You've got to be kidding me." Eric, who'd been silent up until now, finally spoke. "Maybe we should all calm down. This isn't the place." I whirled on him, my anger boiling over. "Shut up, Eric. You don't get to play mediator. You're just as much of a coward as she is. A married man sneaking around with his employee? Real classy." Eric flinched but didn't say another word. Chloe, who had been quiet through the whole exchange, finally broke her silence. "Mom, stop it," she said, her voice trembling. "You're making this worse. Just admit what you did and stop trying to blame Dad." Melissa turned on her daughter, her eyes blazing. "You don't understand, Chloe. I did this for us. To keep things stable, to make sure we had everything we needed. For us," Chloe shouted, tears streaming down her face. "You used me to lie to him. You made me feel like I had to choose between my family and your stupid affair. How is that for us?" The weight of Chloe's words seemed to hit Melissa like a ton of bricks. Her bravado cracked, and for the first time she looked truly vulnerable. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Too late," I said, my voice cold. "You did hurt us, Melissa. You hurt me. You hurt Chloe. And for what? A fling with your boss? A man who probably couldn't care less about you." Eric's face flushed red, but he didn't deny it. Melissa looked down, her hands shaking. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. "This is over, Melissa. This marriage. It's done. And Chloe? She deserves better than to be dragged into your mess." Melissa's eyes widened in panic. "Wait, Alex, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. Fix this." I interrupted, shaking my head. "There's nothing left to fix. You made sure of that the moment you decided to betray me. And as for counseling, you can save that for yourself." I turned to Chloe, my voice softening. "Come on, kid. Let's go." She hesitated, glancing back at her mother, who stood there looking utterly defeated. But then Chloe nodded, wiping her tears, and followed me to the car. The car ride home was heavy with silence, broken only by Chloe's occasional sniffles. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her everything would be okay. But the truth was, I didn't know if it ever would. How do you recover from something like this? When we got home, Chloe finally spoke. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. I didn't know how." I pulled the car into the driveway and turned to her, my anger softening for the first time since the confrontation. "Chloe, this isn't your fault. Your mom put you in an impossible position. I wish you'd told me, but I get why you didn't." She nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I thought if I kept quiet, she'd stop. She promised me it was just a phase, that it didn't mean anything. I was so stupid to believe her." "You're not stupid," I said firmly. "You were trying to protect your family. But Chloe, secrets like that, they only make things worse." We sat in the car for a moment longer before heading inside. Chloe went straight to her room, and I collapsed onto the couch, my mind racing. The confrontation with Melissa replayed in my head like a bad movie I couldn't turn off. Her lies, her excuses, her complete lack of remorse. It all made my blood boil. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. "Melissa, Alex, please, can we talk? I'm begging you. We can fix this. Just let me explain." I stared at the message, my anger reigniting. Fix this? After what she'd done. But as much as I wanted to ignore her, I knew I needed to confront this head-on. So I called her. She answered on the first ring. "Alex, thank God. Listen, I know I screwed up, but you have to believe me." "Stop." I cut her off. "I don't want your excuses, Melissa. I want the truth. How long has this been going on?" There was a long pause before she answered. 8 months. 8 months. Almost an entire year of lies. My grip on the phone tightened. "And you used Chloe to cover for you? To lie to me?" "I didn't know what else to do," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought if I could just keep it quiet, if I could keep it separate from us, it wouldn't matter. But it got out of control, Alex. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for it to go this far?" I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "You mean you didn't mean to get caught?" "That's not fair," she shot back, but her voice lacked conviction. "I still love you, Alex. I made a mistake, but we can get through this. We have a family." I laughed bitterly. A family? Melissa, you destroyed our family the moment you brought Chloe into your lies. And you expect me to forgive that? She started crying then, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no guilt. Just a cold, hollow emptiness. This marriage is over, Melissa, I said firmly. You can cry all you want, but I'm done. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Before she could respond, I hung up, the finality of my words hitting me like a ton of bricks. The days following that phone call were a whirlwind of planning and anger. The betrayal had gutted me, but I refused to let it consume me. If Melissa thought she could lie, cheat, and manipulate without consequences, she was in for a rude awakening. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. I laid everything out. The affair, the involvement of Chloe, the lies. My lawyer, a sharp and no-nonsense woman named Linda, listened carefully before outlining the steps we'd need to take. Gather as much evidence as you can, Linda said. The photos, texts, and any financial records showing marital funds being used to support the affair. It'll help your case during the divorce proceedings. So that's what I did. I combed through bank statements, flagged suspicious charges, hotel stays, expensive dinners, things that didn't line up with our life together. I compiled everything into a damning dossier that painted a clear picture of Melissa's deceit. Meanwhile, Chloe was struggling. She barely left her room, her guilt weighing heavily on her. I tried my best to be patient, but it was hard. Every time I saw her, I couldn't help but think about how she'd been part of this mess. I didn't blame her entirely. Melissa had manipulated her, but the trust between us had taken a hit. One evening, as I was working through paperwork, Chloe came downstairs. She hesitated in the doorway before speaking. Dad, can I talk to you? I set my pen down and nodded. Of course. What's on your mind? She sat on the edge of the couch, fidgeting with her hands. I've been thinking about everything, about what I did. And I know I can't change it, but I want to make it right. I want to help. Her words caught me off guard. Help? How? She looked up, determination in her eyes. Mom told me things about her schedule, about Eric. I can tell you everything. I'll help you prove what she did. I owe you that much. Her offer hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't want Chloe to feel like she had to take sides, but her information could be invaluable. Chloe, I don't want to drag you into this any more than your mom already has, I said carefully. But I'm already in it, she argued, her voice breaking. I lied for her, Dad. I hurt you. Let me do this. Please. I sighed, my heart heavy. Okay, I said finally. If this is what you need to do, I won't stop you. But Chloe, this isn't just about helping me. You need to find a way to heal too. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I will. I need to make it right first. That night, she told me everything. The late-night phone calls, the fake alibis, even the times she'd lied to her friends so Melissa could cover her tracks. Every detail added another layer to the betrayal, but it also strengthened my resolve. Melissa wasn't going to get away with this. Armed with everything Chloe had shared, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a volcano, ready to erupt. Melissa wasn't just a cheating spouse. She was a manipulator, a liar, and someone who'd used her own daughter as a pawn. If she thought I'd quietly let her off the hook, she was sorely mistaken. The next time Melissa tried to call me, I answered. I didn't bother with pleasantries. We need to meet, I said curtly. Tomorrow, at the house. No Eric, no Chloe, just you and me. She hesitated. Alex, is this really necessary? Yes, I said firmly. And you'll want to hear what I have to say. The next evening, I waited in the living room, the evidence I'd gathered spread out on the coffee table. Chloe wasn't home. She'd gone to a friend's for the night, understanding that this was something I needed to handle alone. When Melissa arrived, she looked nervous, her usual confidence noticeably absent. What's this about? She asked, glancing at the table. You know exactly what this is about, I said, motioning for her to sit. She hesitated but eventually sat across from me. Alex, I know you're angry, and I don't blame you, but I held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't you dare try to spin this. I have everything, Melissa. The hotel receipts, the texts, the pictures of you and Eric. Chloe told me everything. Her face went pale. Chloe? Yes, I said, my voice hard. She's done lying for you. She's done covering for your betrayal. And so am I. Melissa's composure crumbled, her hands trembling as she reached for one of the photos. Alex, I never wanted it to get this far. Save it, I snapped. You used her, Melissa, your own daughter. You turned her into your accomplice because you were too selfish to face the consequences of your actions. And now you want me to believe you didn't want this? Give me a break. She started crying, but her tears didn't move me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I made a mistake. I was scared. No, I interrupted, my voice rising. You weren't scared. You were selfish. You wanted your little fling with Eric, and you didn't care who you hurt to get it. Well, now you're going to face the consequences. Her head shot up, panic flashing in her eyes. What do you mean? I mean this marriage is over, I said, my voice cold. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you've done. Your boss? HR? Your friends? They'll all know the truth. She gasped, shaking her head. Alex, please. You don't have to do this. Think about Chloe. Think about our family. I laughed bitterly. Think about our family? That's rich, coming from you. You didn't think about Chloe when you dragged her into this. You didn't think about me when you slept with Eric. Don't act like you care about this family now. She broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't feel pity, just a grim sense of justice. You have a choice, I said, standing up. You can cooperate or I'll take this as far as it needs to go. Either way, you're going to lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your control over Chloe. So, what's it going to be? Her sobs quieted as she looked up at me, her face red and tear-streaked. I'll cooperate, she whispered. Good, I said, my tone final. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Pack your things and leave the house by the end of the week. With that, I walked out of the room, leaving her sitting there in the ruins of her lies. Melissa didn't leave the house immediately. She stayed for a few days, pleading and trying to bargain with me. But I was resolute. Her attempts at reconciliation were half-hearted, laced with excuses and moments of desperation that only deepened my disgust. I refused to engage in any conversation that wasn't about logistics, how we would separate assets, what the plan for Chloe would be, and when she'd move out. Chloe, to her credit, kept her distance from Melissa during those days. She barely said a word to her mother, choosing instead to spend most of her time at a friend's house or in her room. I could tell she was struggling, and I made it a point to remind her that none of this was her fault. Dad, she said one night, her voice hesitant, do you think Mom will ever understand what she did? Like, really understand? I sighed, sitting down next to her on the couch. I don't know, Chloe. Some people never fully own up to their mistakes. They deflect, they blame, they make excuses. But that doesn't mean we have to let it control us. We can move forward, even if she doesn't. She nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. I want to move forward, but it's hard. I feel so stupid for believing her. You're not stupid, I said firmly. You were put in an impossible situation. And the fact that you came clean, that you stood up to her, it shows strength, not weakness. That conversation solidified something for me. I wasn't just fighting for my own dignity. I was fighting for Chloe's trust and her future, too. Melissa's betrayal had fractured our family, but I was determined not to let it destroy what was left. The divorce proceedings began quickly, thanks to the evidence I'd gathered and Melissa's agreement to cooperate. Linda, my lawyer, handled everything with precision, ensuring that Melissa couldn't twist the narrative or drag things out unnecessarily. As expected, Eric became a problem. Once word of their affair reached his office, thanks to a strategically timed email with the photos I'd taken, he was put on administrative leave. Melissa's job was spared, for now, but the scandal tainted her reputation at work. Melissa called me one last time during this period, her voice raw and strained. Alex, can't we at least keep this civil? For Chloe's sake. I held back a bitter laugh. Civility went out the window the moment you lied to me, Melissa. The only reason this isn't messier is because I care about Chloe more than I care about seeing you burn. But don't mistake that for forgiveness. She tried to protest, but I hung up before she could continue. The day Melissa moved out was oddly quiet. She tried to make small talk as she loaded her boxes into the car, but I wasn't interested in playing nice. Chloe stayed in her room, refusing to come out, and I couldn't blame her. Watching her mother pack up her life and leave was bound to stir up emotions she wasn't ready to face. Melissa paused in the doorway, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. "Alex," she started, her voice soft. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope one day you can at least understand why I did what I did." I stared at her, my jaw tightening. "You don't get it, do you? There's no understanding this, Melissa. You lied. You cheated. You used Chloe to cover for you. The only thing I understand is that you destroyed our family because you were too selfish to think about anyone but yourself." Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. She'd made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. As she drove away, I felt an odd mix of relief and sadness. The weight of her presence was finally gone, but the house felt emptier without her. It wasn't just the physical space she left behind. It was the years of memories, the moments we'd shared that now felt tainted. Chloe came downstairs later that evening, her face puffy from crying. She sat next to me on the couch, curling into my side like she used to when she was little. "She's gone?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, wrapping an arm around her. "She's gone." For a while, we just sat there, the silence between us heavy but comforting. Eventually, Chloe spoke again. "Do you think she'll try to come back?" I shook my head. "I don't know. But if she does, it won't change anything. What she did, there's no coming back from that." Chloe nodded, her head resting on my shoulder. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Dad. I feel like I let you down." I turned to her, my voice firm. "You didn't let me down, Chloe. Your mom put you in an impossible situation, and you did the best you could. Don't ever blame yourself for her choices." She sniffled and nodded, and I felt a flicker of hope. We'd been through hell, but we were still here. We were still a family, even if it looked different now. The weeks after Melissa moved out were a blur of adjustments and quiet moments of reflection. The house felt emptier without her, but it also felt calmer. The tension that had been simmering under the surface for months was gone, replaced by a strange sense of clarity. Chloe and I started rebuilding our relationship one conversation at a time. We went out for dinners, watched movies together, and even tackled some small home projects, painting the living room, fixing the leaky faucet in the kitchen. It wasn't about the activities themselves. It was about creating new memories, ones untainted by lies and betrayal. One evening, as we were sorting through old photo albums, Chloe looked up at me. "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" The question caught me off guard. I sat back, staring at the picture of a younger, happier version of Melissa and me. "I don't know," I admitted. "Right now, it feels impossible. But maybe someday I'll be able to let go of the anger. Not for her sake, but for mine. Carrying it around forever. It's exhausting." Chloe nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. I think I'll always love her, but I don't know if I can trust her again." "You don't have to figure it all out right now," I said gently. "It's okay to take your time." Melissa, for her part, stayed relatively quiet after the move. She reached out occasionally to check on Chloe, but I kept my interactions with her minimal and strictly about co-parenting. I made it clear that she had no place in my life anymore beyond that. As the months went by, I started to feel more like myself again. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and even started therapy to process everything that had happened. It wasn't an easy road, but I was learning how to move forward without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. One day, Chloe surprised me with a small gift, a framed photo of the two of us from a recent hiking trip. The note attached read, "Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I let you down. You're the best dad I could ever ask for." That moment reminded me why I'd fought so hard to keep our relationship intact. Melissa might have shattered our family, but Chloe and I had built something stronger from the pieces. a bond that couldn't be broken by lies or betrayal. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that betrayal doesn't define you. It hurts, yes, but it also reveals the truth about who you are and who's truly there for you. For anyone going through something similar, my advice is simple. Trust your instincts, protect your peace, and never let someone else's actions rob you of your dignity. I've still got a long way to go, but for the first time in a while, I'm hopeful. And that's enough for now. Thank you for staying with me. This crazy journey is finally over and I'm ready for what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more interesting stories. And leave a comment with what you would do in this situation. See you in the next videos.